Right, so nearby, Brad and Nisha, are you ready to talk about ancient Egyptian pharaohs getting their shit nicked?
No.
Yeah.
I want to know one person's way more enthusiastic about this. Few types of historical rulers have been as consistently dunked on as the ancient Egyptian pharaohs, something I say due to the alarming regularity with which they got their stuff stolen, sometimes even by their own relatives moments after they died.
Lol.
You know what, Grandad's skill issue is mine now.
Five seconds later, mine.
Well, that's basically what happened, Nisha. So what do you guys know about the ancient Egyptian pharaohs?
They wore golden hats.
Big
with
golden hats.
They had snake hair on their head and pointy beard chins and...
Am I correct in saying they worshipped cats?
They did worship cats, yes. There's that fact that everyone likes to bandy about, which is that cats basically domesticated themselves because they, unlike dogs, which we domesticated by training them. It's like they say, like the first wolf maybe that smelt meat cooking on a campfire with ancient man might have come on over, and then over time we earned its trust. And say cats just wandered into like settlements and just didn't leave.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I remember a few years ago I wrote an article about the fact that cats, the terminal velocity of a cat falling out of like a skyscraper is not enough to kill it. Because there's a graph you maybe have seen where it's like, the cats falling out of windows die between like the third and the seventh story, but after the 10th story they almost always survive because they reach terminal velocity and just go and just land. And the joke that I made is, and maybe that's why the ancient Egyptian, my theory is that one fell from space and ancient Egyptians saw it and went, we should worship those. That's definitely sent back to
Oh yeah, I can see that. Because those videos where you see cats falling in slow-mo and they do that twist and they like land on all fours.
So dogs started as wolves wandering into places. Does that mean that the original cats that just wandered into settlements were like fucking tigers?
No, just like little domesticated.
Because I wouldn't tell that thing to leave either.
And the ancient Egyptians revered them as gifts from God because they had their cat-headed god, and they also saw cats as being protectors because they would hunt mice and other pests. The other thing that we need to talk about is the fact that just grave robbing was really common in ancient Egypt to an almost comical degree. Because I think we all know, we're British. The British Museum exists. We can't ignore the fact that we are kind of responsible for this, and I mean we in a macro sense, because there's that, you ever seen that great tweet someone did where they tagged the British Museum in those two guys posing as if they're putting the Leaning Tower of Pisa into a bag? Yes. And they tagged them and they got blocked by the British Museum. We stole a lot of shit, explorers and just pasty white guys with degrees would just break into the tombs of ancient emperors and just steal all that shit. And but it might surprise you to learn that it was surprisingly common during the time of the pharaohs as well.
There's huge fuck-off massive triangles that tell you where all the gold is. So obviously it's going to get stolen.
Because you might think, we buried this guy with like 1 million tons of gold. Why would you not see it? But grave robbing was basically ingrained as part of ancient Egyptian culture across all levels of society.
How is it part of culture?
Because I'm not making this up. Families would sometimes just go raid their grandparents' graves if they ran out of money.
Oh my god.
And there was stories and tales of people dumping out their grandparents' mummified remains into a river to use the sarcophagus again.
Oh my god. Where's the conscience?
So much for I'm going through to the afterlife with all my belongings. It's like, no, you're going down a river.
Well, that's the thing, because they just realised, we're just gonna take this stuff. It's like, we need it. Granny's dead, might as well take it.
I guess they didn't do wills back then.
No, they did do a will. It was, I'm going to be buried under this pyramid with all of my servants and my pets.
And you will grave rob me.
That's the thing, and you kind of have to respect that level of just pragmatism of, we need a sarcophagus. They're really expensive. We've got one just sat around doing nothing.
I feel like I'd get disowned by my family if I was like, I need a coffin for when I go. I'm going to dig up my granddad.
Well, they're expensive. And there are, like, times where people have dug up sarcophagus and found multiple mummies just crammed right in there presumably to save money. Like, families would just, like, dig up the sarcophagus and put another person, like, why not?
God, if they discovered cremation, imagine, like, you'd get so much ash in one of those coffins.
Well, that's the thing, like, ancient Egyptians did not want to be cremated. It's like one of the ways that you did not want to be have your remains taken care of in ancient Egypt, because that was seen as like basically destroying the body means that you don't have a body in the afterlife.
So burning the body's not okay, but throwing grandma in a river's fine.
It was a different time. It was literally a different time, right? It was a different body dumping time.
Am I right in thinking it was the Egyptians that discovered irrigation as well?
Mm-hmm.
So they even had little like tributaries and canals and things just to chuck the bodies into. It's an easy job, just go down the local crops. Bye, grandma.
As I said, it was common in all levels of society, but it's the grave robbing of pharaohs that is like the most like well remembered, because they had a lot of stuff, and a lot of pharaohs were keenly aware that people wanted to get their stuff, and they would mete out increasingly vicious punishments to grave robbers. But that didn't really deter people, because they would get a lot of slave labour in to build their pyramids, and they'd threaten them with a curse on your soul. It's like, well, I don't believe in your stupid crocodile god, I'm going to steal your shit. That's the thing, is initially they try and warn people from curses. Because we all know about the curse of the mummy. And that didn't really deter many of the things. Well, I'm already got a shit lot in life anyway. What's a curse gonna do? Might as well just steal me some, pharaoh gold. So that's where, the idea of traps and stuff came in, and then there would just death penalty. Again, that's not really going to deter you, because they're not going to find it out, because no one's going to open it back up.
Unless you caught somebody walking around with a pharaoh's headdress, I don't really know how you'd find out that someone had robbed a grave.
Exactly, that's why it was such a popular crime, because it was basically victimless, because the person you're stealing from was rich and dead, so who gives a fuck? And pharaohs were more than aware that this happened, because they themselves were not above doing it. And it's noted that many pharaohs, one of their first acts when they became pharaoh would be to raid the tomb of their immediate predecessor.
I really hope that they're doing this slyly. They're not commanding people to do it. If the pharaoh's taking off his headdress, he's putting on a disguise, and he's creeping around. And one of the
swag bag.
Yeah, one of the security turns up
with domino mask.
Security turns you stop there. He turns around. Oh, Pharaoh Ramesses. What are you doing here? Nothing.
Well, the thing is, the actual thing that they would do is way more hilarious, because some pretty ballsy advisors would ask the pharaoh, "What are you doing? Raiding the tomb of Lara Crofting your way through your predecessors, just final resting place?" They'd respond, "Well, all pharaohs are the physical form of Horus, essentially the same guy. It's just my stuff. I'm taking it back."
Like that.
So that was their argument was, it's my stuff. I'm just taking it back.
That's going to be my argument when I get caught grave robbing. Whoever it is, I'm them reincarnated.
Yeah.
They died last week. Yep.
And this is where it kind of reveals that maybe the pharaohs were not as all in on believing that they were the reincarnation of Horus, because a lot of pharaohs were aware of this because they themselves did it. They would specifically try and build their tombs to stop people getting in, because they knew the first thing that would happen when they died is that their immediate successor would come in and steal their shit.
They need the national treasure tech of having a room that seems like the treasure room, but it's all missing. And then someone comes in, it's it's already been robbed, but there's a secret entrance to the real tomb.
So, are there any specific examples of this?
Well, I think the most extreme example of a pharaoh being really paranoid is Pharaoh, hopefully I pronounce his name correct here, Amenhotep.
That's completely wrong.
Okay, well, he was so paranoid that someone's going to come in after he died and steal his shit, or that, grave robbers would come in. What he did is he built an entire village, and that village housed his workers, because, fun fact, the people who generally robbed the tombs were the people who helped build them, because they knew where all the stuff was. It's one thing to try and keep out, your ancestors, the British Museum in 1,000 years, but how are you going to keep out the people who built it? It's like Michael Scofield, isn't it? It's Well, imagine though, 1,000 Michael Scofields and how scary that'd be. Imagine trying to keep 1,000 Michael Scofields out of your pyramid.
There's a scene from a film, and I can't place it. But
I thought you were going to say there's a scene from Prison Break where they break into a pyramid.
No, that's where the show should have gone. I'd have watched him breaking into a pyramid.
No, they should have turned Prison Break into like Assassin's Creed and showed us like different ancestors of Michael Scofield breaking into and out of like famous historical prisons or areas where are naturally inaccessible.
We'd had that idea years ago that they should have had him die and he goes to hell and he has to break out of hell.
Yeah, so it's the ultimate prison.
Yeah.
Hell.
Yeah, no, this other film I was thinking of, it's an action film and I can't place what it is, but somebody is part of like the team that are reconstructing like a hole in the wall, but they put like a rock in there.
That when they pull the rock out, the wall collapses.
Yeah, I can think of what you're doing. It's like then they're being held at gunpoint and led in.
And then they have to shimmy along the outside of this.
Then he pulls it and it traps everyone.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking of that, like if you're designing the pyramids, you can add in the secret like way to get in. So
Well,
you can go on it.
well, sometimes they do that, yeah. The builders would sometimes add in secret entrances that only they knew the location of, so they could break straight in when the pharaoh died and steal all his shit.
If all of them did that, there'd just be thousands of secret entrances, just all these doors.
They're all there at once.
Well, this is
breaking at
awkward.
the same time.
Well, I think that did happen because obviously they weren't all. Sometimes they were working together, but when you're like, the life of a forced labourer in ancient Egypt was not one of comfort. So I can't imagine there was much reason to not at least try to get your hands on some of the gold.
Red Notice, they might have the film.
Okay, so I'll try and find the clip afterwards if I can of that.
What's step 3?
And Amenhotep's thinking was, if I build the village, the workers are reliant on me for everything. Food, water, like just survival is reliant on me and my kindness. They're not going to do anything to upset that. Turns out that wasn't exactly the case because the workers just grew to resent him, but also realised that if we're the only people here, there's absolutely zero oversight and we can just plunder the shit out of this without anybody knowing. And as a result, Amenhotep's tomb was raided before he died.
I was going to say that there's a fundamental flaw in this plan where he's like, oh, I'm going to treat them all really nicely because then they're not going to raid my tomb.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, he's going to be dead at the point when they're eventually going to raid it.
Yep.
Obviously, in this instance, not, but
I don't think it's that you want it to be nice, it's more that the implication that if you do anything wrong, I'll just stop feeding you and then you all die. But it's just, what it turns out is like, well, no one wants to go to this shitty village with nothing in it. All it is full of workers. Why would I ever go there? So there's no oversight, so he's going to steal everything that's not nailed down. And yeah, that's what happened.
do you have any idea of how much stuff was stolen overall?
Pretty much all of it. That's Joe, when they say like when they open up like Tutankhamun's tomb and there's nothing in there, chances are that's not because there was nothing in there, it's because it all got nicked first. Like virtually everything that was not nailed down was taken, which is why the pharaohs got so paranoid, because it was such a widely accepted part of their culture. Like I said, the pharaohs themselves, usually one of their first acts would be to go into the tomb of their predecessor, literally kick their body out and steal all their shit. It's like, I'm taking my stuff back. And that's if there was even any stuff in there, because the workers, while they were building it, would steal stuff. They'd break back in when it had finished. Like, just the entire process was, just it was skeletons all the way down.
Realising that Night at the Museum is just historically inaccurate because the tablet of Akhmun-Ra would never have made it into the museum. It would have been stolen centuries ago.
Obviously, there's some stuff they couldn't do, and like some pharaohs were a bit more hands-on, and just sometimes just workers didn't get a chance to steal stuff. Sometimes the tombs were well protected, but yeah, there was just a lot of stuff that got nicked, sometimes by the pharaohs themselves. And it makes it extra funny if you choose to view this story through the lens of an ancient Egyptian who believed in Sobek and Horus and all that stuff, because that means that just pharaohs were just in this constant pissing contest with themselves. So it's kind of like thinking it's like, oh, we're all the same reincarnation of the same god. Why do we keep building new pyramids? Why don't they just live in one pyramid? Why don't they just have one pyramid and just keep putting pharaohs into it?
I think what the audience want to know, Carl, is have you ever stole anything from your family?
What kind of a weirdo wants to know that? Hey, Carl, have you ever
I
committed?
just want a story.
What, stealing stuff?
Yeah.
I've been watching old videos back, doing collecting stuff for
Okay.
shorts, and You don't tell that many stories anymore. I want a story.
I guess there is one. 'Cause, like, my dad watches these videos, so I'm going to tell us I'm really, really sorry, Dad. And I'm not sure if he knows this or not, but my dad was just, I'm not sure if this is the same for anyone else, but just he always had loads of like change in his pocket. But he didn't have a wallet, so his jeans always had like 15 quid in change in them all the times. And to the point where, like, you know, you could tell when he was like, you know, getting ready for bed, because you didn't take his jeans off, and you did, it was like, you know, the thing. And just every now and again, my brothers and me would sneak into his room and, like, you know, take like 50p out to go get some, like a fudge or a chomp. And I'm not sure if you ever found that out. So, Dad, I'm really sorry. I may have taken a couple of quid off you over the years to get some chomps, and that's all I'm willing to admit to on camera.
Oh my God. You've unlocked a memory of chomps there, Jesus Christ.
I love that term I've learned recently. It's probably not a new term, but it's core memory.
Oh yeah.
Where it's like one of those things, and one for me is chomps, because I'll tell another funny story about my dad. I remember him getting into an argument with my mum because he'd take the family dog out for a walk like every other evening, and like it turns out for like 6 months, because he always said, I want to walk the dog on its own, you know, relax, like, you know, clear my head. It turns out he was walking the dog to the corner shop and buying a chomp, eating the chomp, and then walking back.
He just wants peace and a chomp.
He just wanted his chomp, but what makes it funny is we got to know, because obviously he's got like 3 kids and a wife at home. He didn't buy us a chomp. So
That's a bigger betrayal than you taking his money.
So he just goes to that's the thing, apparently all my family stories revolve around us by the acquisition of chomps. And I'm apologising for being so sweaty, folks, so it is really crushingly hot here right now, isn't it? It's like, do you want to take a look at the wall there, tell you what temperature is? That little white box. The thermostat. 27 degrees, so it is warm. So
That's Celsius.
That's Celsius, yeah. So it is bloody warm, but yeah, that's all I'm willing to admit to. I've just found out he was going out with dog and just getting a chomp. We're just like, it's such a minor thing, but we all got so annoyed just to find out he was just getting a chomp.
I mean, we've all been in that situation where we're just like, you need to disconnect and you just make up an excuse. Like, I remember when I was younger, I used to play football at the local field, and every now and then the ball would get kicked over like a hill, and you'd run over the hill and get the ball, and you'd just stop and be like, God, I need a break. Just wait there, and then come back like a couple minutes later. Oh, I was in the bushes, in the brambles, really hard to find. We've all been there. I get it. I get the chomp need.
But it's the thing, like, chomp is just such a core memory. Because there was that time my mate got his head split off and by a chomp. Told that one?
You what?
My mate, Adam, like, he used to keep his chomps in the fridge. Or the freezer, sorry. And then one day he's like, hand me that chomp. So we used to have a thing called Gambit, which is like, you just go, Gambit, and you had to throw something, you had to try and catch it. We were dicks. And I just went, it wasn't, I don't know if it was me or I was there, but just someone shouted Gambit through this chomp, and it was the most perfect arc I've ever seen, and it twatted him right there, and it split his head open.
Oh my God.
Just went, Gambit!
Solid.
That's the thing, a frozen chomp, that was lethal.
The ultimate weapon.
It was, the solid ass chomp. I think all the Americans are like, the fuck's a chomp? And it's just a little chocolate bar.
Oh man,
Yeah.
see, would it be better to throw instead a frozen curly whirly? Because the shape of that is like carbon fibre.
A frozen curly whirly would absolutely annihilate someone. So, and what chocolate bar, frozen, would you not want thrown at your head?
Oh, this is a great one for the comment
Now
section.
you've got to say, you can't say Toblerone. Because I'm saying, because you'd be dead. And that's not funny.
My first thought was Mars because they're very thick and
Oh, yeah.
compact.
Stop. No,
So
you
it's
want
just like-
Snickers because the nuts are in there as well.
That's
Extra
true.
hair.
Oh man, do you ever see that like cursed picture of like a Snickers without the dick veins on it? Just smooth Snickers.
No, Dick, never say it like that.
That's what someone did. I think someone tweeted out of like, why do Snickers have a dick vein? And I think like Mars, the company, blocked them for it.
If that company had any sense, they would retweet it with a joke, and it would go viral, and they would sell more chocolate.
They would, yeah.
They
But
so
then,
fucking care about their image way too much.
I'm thinking now, maybe a bag of M&Ms. I feel like, that'd be like a bean bag.
I feel like though it would wrap around your head, and the impact would be taken out by the.
What kind of M&Ms?
Peanut M&Ms.
Peanut.
I'm thinking, like, do you know if like you had the full bag and you whipped it, like all the way, it like get compacted in the end, like I said, like a bean bag, and like whack you right in the eye, I could probably take you out.
Double decker.
Well, that's the thing. I had to say we can't say Toblerone because that would kill you. But I do. There's that. I'll see if I can get my friend to send me the photo.
Toblerone, the chocolate spice strip.
Yeah, it basically is. He bought a 4-kilo Toblerone, and it's just a picture of him posing with it like a child. And he just said like every couple of days he'd just get one of the chunks and nibble on it for like 30 minutes, and then put it back in the fridge. So I'll say like the moment I realised I'm an adult with self-control is when I bought like a Mars bar. And I did the thing that my mum used to do of like putting half of it in the packet and putting it back in the fridge. I only wanted a little bit.
Yeah, it's too sickly now.
I am partial to a Milky Way though. But I don't think that would hurt if you put in the fridge, they're too light.
Too airy.
Yeah, but I'm now thinking like what chocolate bars would be like the most, like, I bet a flake would be deceptively dangerous because it's crumbly.
Oh no, it would shatter like a frag grenade.
Like it's a ninja star in your eye.
Oh, what would be most like a ninja star? It'd have to be something thin.
Wagon
What
wheel.
about those?
Wagon
I'm just thinking
wagon
of those
wheel.
little magic stars that you used to get in the packet, just mini
Oh,
stars.
if you got a handful of them and threw them
Stars.
into the eye.
Well, they're like magic. They're called magic stars, aren't they?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think they were Milky Way.
you know what? Kinder Egg.
Oh no, cream egg.
Oh,
That's like a rock.
That would kill you. I say I don't like cream eggs because, like,
too sickly.
we all know that they're shit, and we all know they're getting smaller. And I hate that the company gets to say, no, they're not. And I think it was BJ Novak from like The Office who proved definitively that they are, because the company is in like the very advantageous position of their products are seasonal. So like, you know, Easter, cream eggs next year, make them a little bit smaller. And BJ Novak says I buy them in bulk every year, and I've got one from 5 years ago and one from this year, and he just holds it up and you can see it's like half the size.
God, that happens so often. Like we have a
Shrinkflation is the term that someone's going to be screaming in the comments. So it's very common and we understand.
there's a Reddit thread dedicated to it as well.
Yeah.
We have this roses tin from like 2 decades ago.
I've got one, yeah.
For Christmas, and then it's made of metal, and it's about 3 times the size of the ones they sell now.
Yeah, and they're going, and the company will say, or like smart asses who feel the need to defend like billion-dollar corporations, will they write how much is on there? So they try so hard to obfuscate how much you're actually getting. So I've got like 3 cereal boxes. You can see them there, can't you? People in the audience can't see, but I've got 3. Look at the size differentials in all those boxes of cereal. Because they all have the same amount of cereal in them, but
Wheatos orange.
yeah, that's the thing. They are all the same size. So I think cereal boxes are probably the hardest thing to do this with, because cereal boxes for years were a very specific shape, like almost uniform. And companies don't seem to be able to agree on how they're going to make them smaller. Some have made them taller. Oh, they look bigger, but then thinner. But when you've got like that on a shelf next to one that's trying to do the wider thing, it looks bad. And no company, it's the one time it's very visually obvious what they're doing.
The thing that gets me about cereal boxes nowadays is that they're obviously way smaller than they used to be. They're fucking like £2-3 each.
They're so expensive.
Yeah.
Like, I barely eat cereal.
If you're a parent, because when I was a kid, we had cereal every morning. Like my mum was like, she had 4 kids. We're gonna make my cereal every morning. Each cereal box recommends about 12 portions.
There's no lie bigger.
Yeah. So in that case, 6 portions. That's a box a fucking day for my mum.
Yeah, I remember trying to I said, okay, I'm going to pour the recommended amount of cereal into my bowl. I went, this looks like I'm depressed. This looks like I'm fucking depressed. It's like, I'm a YouTuber, I'm doing all right, I don't need to go this far.
It's the portion size you would give to your child if you were like, you know, your kid baby's just starting eating solid food. It's like, there you go.
It annoys the shit out of me, like, you know, these things. And so we have a friend who works for a well-known chocolate company. And the stories like he tells of like, we're currently in the process of trying to figure out how to make like the Kit Kat indentation ever so slightly deeper because we can save chocolate. It's like,
Oh my god.
fucking hell, we can't even get the Kit Kat.